Right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 28 of Crypto Waffle. We have a special guest today, CryptoInsightUK. And then today's topics are the weekly insight, how long do we have left, and Bitcoin dominance is the peak in. We'll kick it off with the weekly insight. If Will, you just want to give yourself a quick introduction of who you are, what you do, and then run us through your weekly insight Substack.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Will, CryptoInsightUK. I don't know if you've doxed yourself, what your name, whether you doxed your name, I was nearly. But anyway, I know financial advisor for a financial navigator, for how long now? Maybe 2 years?
Yeah, 3 years, something like that.
Yeah. And I've only just met you, Crypto Sensei, today. So CryptoSI. CryptoSI, sorry, bro. Well, that's how you know we've only just met today, but also how you know I'm dyslexic too. But yeah, I've been into crypto since 2017. Went full time in 2019, 2020. Documented my journey for that. We were just talking about this off camera. On TikTok to start with, and then transitioned mainly towards Twitter in the bear market. And I also have a YouTube channel where I've got about 9,000 on YouTube, 44,000 or 45,000 on Twitter, and I don't know, somewhere around 80 on TikTok. Transitioned away from short form videos because I just don't enjoy them. But basically what I do is talk about macro and crypto and anything in between. Specifically talk more about XRP, but that's because my portfolio is heavily positioned towards XRP. It wasn't meant to be that way specifically. It just sort of like happened that way. The last cycle I was pretty ETH focused, dumped most of that, and then cycled it into XRP. I've done most of that in the bull last year and then cycled it into XRP. And since then, yes, I started a newsletter. I think we're on maybe episode 144 or something of that. So it's been going about 3 years. We actually had a paid version of that for a year before that as well. So 4 or 5 years of weekly newsletters, which is the Weekly Insight, where we cover anything from, again, my opinion, but mainly from a few sections on macro, what's going on in policy around the world, monetary policy, but also regulatory policy, and then the relationship between that and crypto specifically. And then they have a second section which the Crypto Man writes, which is Charts of the Week, where he discusses his favorite charts, but also on-chain analysis for different crypto as well. And yeah, we're nearly on 2,000 subscribers, weekly readers for that. So it'd be really cool if you would check that out and drop that a little sub. I think we're on like 1,907 off the top of my head since this week. So yeah, that's probably enough about me. I just rambled on for a little bit. I don't even know what I said, to be honest.
Yeah, because I've been like your Substack. I used to pay for the paid one, and a while back, then obviously you guys dropped the free thing, and it's one of the ones that I do go to on a weekly basis. Have a quick scan through. I like what you guys post. You follow the same sort of macro pundits that I follow as well. Lots of Darius Dale, Raoul Pal, Julian Vittel, Tony Greer, all of them as well. Macro Dirt podcasts. But what I found quite interesting in this week's episode, could you explain a bit more about your gold down, Bitcoin up thesis, or what you've mentioned in that?
Yeah, I could probably do this in a chart actually if you want. I haven't prepped this, but I can probably just
Go for it.
Let me see if I can get a chart open for you guys and just show you the correlations. Let me just guess.
I think it was Raoul was saying on one of these things this week that they've only just figured out on GMI that is it gold and financial conditions are basically the same.
Yeah, he was talking about gold, and I think the reaction of gold and short term like liquidity is basically saying that they're pretty in tune, basically, I think. So this is gold. Can you see this, or I don't know?
Yeah.
Cool. So this is gold just on the weekly, and obviously, with these lines and this arrow was just a bearish divergence that's been forming on gold for a long while here. And obviously, for people who don't know, bearish divergence is where the oscillator is making a lower high and price action is making a higher high. It indicates that momentum is starting to slow on the asset. So that's just here, you can see there. So basically what we're talking there is I'm going to get into the Bitcoin relationship in 1 second. But what I'm saying is I think gold's slowing down. It's been a pretty hard call because this is obviously on the weekly time frame. So this is since October of last year. And we're getting some volume at the top. Yeah, price hasn't really broken out as well. So what you're seeing there is potentially distribution on gold on the short term. And it's kind of coming into a crescendo at the same sort of time as like macro uncertainty starting to fall off. Like as in it's starting to get less uncertain. I think we peaked with uncertainty when tariffs were announced. And since then we've seen like the VIX drop from like 40 to 20, for example, which is a good volatility index in US markets specifically. And we've seen like potentially like today, Trump's on the phone to Putin and potentially an ending in the Russia Ukraine war, or at least discussion on that. We saw obviously there was a flare up in Pakistan and India. That's since ended, and also we're starting to see at least negotiation between the US and China on tariffs. Whether we get anything like anyone's guess, but the tariffs have come down massively from what they started at. I think they started at like what, I don't know what they
140% or something silly, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. I think one day it was like floated at 240 or something like that. But both sides have dropped their tariffs significantly, and I think the biggest tariff is like 10 to 30% on one way or another. But essentially what I'm saying is I think that the narrative is also playing into the technical here, where gold has been an asset used to protect yourself against volatility and uncertainty in markets. Although I do think the long-term trend of gold is up, because I do think the continuation of this like uncertain environment like that will continue. I also think in the short term we've had this, like if you just scroll out, like a parabola for gold since we broke out of the consolidation phase at like 2000. So with all that being said, what I was basically trying to say is, if gold pulls back to this area here, and I think it's quite a big pullback. It's like 17-18% from where we are now. I think, let's have a look. It's 14% from current price action, although I've not like measured that completely accurately, but 14% to the top of our key support level, towards 20% to the bottom. If we have this rotation from gold, like if people start to sell off gold, I basically think that Bitcoin is going to catch a bid during this time. And it's a substantial amount of money, like a $3,200 gold at $20 trillion market cap. Whereas when we were at like $2,000 gold, it's like 12 trillion. So it's gained like 8 trillion just on this move up here. So 20% of that just pulling back is like 15 to 20% is anywhere for like $3 to $4 trillion, which automatically doubles the market cap of crypto if you don't take into consideration supply and demand dynamics, which I think I think that market cap in crypto is a bit of a facade, to be honest. So like I think it would go much, much higher if all of that capital rotated into crypto, which obviously it wouldn't. It would be rotating.
If that does rotate into crypto, do you think it's the rotating to specifically Bitcoin, or would it go into alts as well? Because I think I'd be of the opinion that it mainly stick to Bitcoin.
Well, this is the argument that everyone always has, and like I think that, because I'm going to encompass with that people say our ETFs are only good for like the spot Bitcoin ETFs only good for Bitcoin. And my argument is that like people who held Bitcoin before the spot ETF was introduced have still made money on Bitcoin. So the rotation from Bitcoin is going to be the people that have already made money on Bitcoin, and they should still rotate. So you should still see a drop in Bitcoin dominance, because people are going to look out the risk curve as they make more money, or like more people join. And the people who are previously in Bitcoin and made the percentages and understand that at least the previous cycles are probably going to, based on history, rotate into alts, and then alts catch a bit as well. So long as people have still made money in Bitcoin, I presume that history repeats when we get to the area of Bitcoin dominance, and that when that starts to drop. But just quickly having a look back at gold and talking about directionally what I thought was going to happen. I don't know if my computer's loading here. Here we go. And what I was basically saying is, although directionally Bitcoin and gold are going in the same direction over time, what seems to be happening especially on the weekly time frame, is as gold cools off, Bitcoin's been catching a bid. So Bitcoin's like the overlaid line here to make it orange, so because everyone loves orange if they're a Bitcoin holder. So when we've chopped sideways, Bitcoin's caught a bid, and then when we've started to pull back for Bitcoin, gold's caught a bid, and then as we've been like consolidating here, Bitcoin has started to break up. But what we are then seeing, like even on like the short term, is like as gold's like pulled back and consolidated, Bitcoin's pulled up and consolidated. So what I'm looking for is potentially a rejection. I was looking at on the short term. I'll take Bitcoin off now if you can see the correlation that I'm looking at. Is like I was looking for a potential breakdown of this support to lose the 2,200 level, and then a back test of that level again to confirm it then as resistance before a further breakdown, and like a confirmation of this downtrend, hopefully making a lower high somewhere and then continue to make a lower low. And if the thesis is right with Bitcoin gaining strength as gold like loses strength, then we should start to see a rotation to Bitcoin. I've just been looking for the catalyst basically to complete the thesis that I've got with Bitcoin heading up in anytime soon basically.
Yeah.
When was the last time gold had such a pullback? Has it happened recently?
Not really. Not since this leg up. Like nothing of like 17 to 20%. But we have seen it obviously historically. Like throughout these periods, it's all like large pullbacks. But if you look at this, this is sort of like run up that I think gold's actually have been. It's like 70s, and when we start to push out of these zones, we do start to get aggressive pullbacks. Let's have a look. This is that's a 30 there, but this and these will be higher here as well. Obviously more than 30% there. It's like 50% ish from the top. But as I say, like I do think gold is going to continue. I think gold's going to continue much higher. In fact, I give a target for gold of like $10,000. But I just think this is like wave one of what potentially is a 5-wave move to the upside for gold.
Yeah, I'm with the same opinion. Bullish long term, short term, I think we're due a pullback. It was only recently that I've literally sold all my gold holdings, and I've bought silver instead. So
it's just difficult. Like I'm not a metals trader. I don't know much about the silver apart from like narratives I see online. I'm just using gold as a metric that I've seen that has been like long term correlated to Bitcoin.
Exactly the same. I've only sold my gold due to this gold silver ratio. That is literally it. It's more of a technical play than anything.
Yeah. So
is there do you take into account the new money being printed? So say perhaps if money is continually being printed, that perhaps less of it goes to gold. So maybe the price doesn't pull back, but more of the new money being printed just goes towards crypto?
Maybe. Like obviously, as I said, it's not a full thesis, but my thought process is if we take into consideration like that's like as much as that is like a technical, I guess, it's still also a narrative is like money being printed like rotates into gold to protect against the money being printed. That's the narrative, isn't it? And in that same narrative, you could say that in times of uncertainty, people move to gold, and when there's times of like monetary stimulus, then they move to the fastest horse, and that's been my thesis. And if people are paying that much attention to the market that they know to move to gold in times of like say inflation, then you also know that Bitcoin's the like over time the best performing asset in terms of an inflation hedge, even though like short term you can argue whether it is or it isn't correlated to inflation. But my thought process is gold's had a 50% rise, gained $8 trillion market cap. Probably at some point people do, or at least a percentage of the people that hold gold start to rotate that into something they think is going to outperform when we get into a less uncertain period, even if that period's only small. And the technicals are kind of saying the same thing. So
yeah,
whether they actually do rotate, or if more money coming in means that the price is less volatile than I expect, I don't know. But they're just logical technical areas that are basically aligned with an overall thesis. I think it's like, as I said, it's not perfect, but it's just what's been happening for the last few weeks.
I think we've definitely seen the sentiment topping gold as well. Like we had JP Morgan and someone else tweeting at the exact top saying gold, talking about gold. And then I was talking to one of my friends who plays at a local golf club. Apparently all the people down there just banging on about gold all the time. And that for me is a perfect sentiment top. Like if they've been holding this thing for ages, short term, that's a perfect signal that we're in a top. And I've got the same targets of you. Our lowest target I've got is around 2.4. So again, that's a 20-ish% pullback from where we are now. And I think that will create a lot of liquidity to go into other markets rather than just gold.
Do you think it's kind of like, it does sound like Bitcoin is like the altcoin to gold, where the money could have been made on gold and then rotated through to Bitcoin. How long do you think this move, I know it's not a full-on thesis yet, but what kind of time frame do you see this move playing out over?
That's a really difficult question to answer, to be honest, because if you use like M2, which is like a lot of the macro analysts use for their thought on where the market goes, it's like that looks towards the end of the year and into Q1, Q2 of next year for being like a blow off top for Bitcoin and potentially going higher than $200,000, which would give you the answer of like maybe 6 to 9 months this pullback takes. But also, again, like you said, it's like we don't know whether any point in that period, this like gold could short sharp correct and then continue up with Bitcoin towards the end of the year, if that is the scenario that plays out. But we don't know definitely which way that's going to go and when that's and how long that correction will take, because as I said, directionally over time they do trend in the same direction. It's just like short term where I've found this correlation. I just expect that. I also feel like, I know it's going to sound kind of ridiculous when Bitcoin's at all-time high, but I think compared to like gold, and you looked at gold, like it took how long did it take to break this resistance? Let's say, 10 to 14 years to break out above 2000, and it's done 50% this year. On that, like on that basis, it's like Bitcoin's probably undervalued. Like, unless Bitcoin's severely overvalued, which obviously anyone can make the argument that it could be. If you just look at it as a directional play against monetary debasement, and that's something that reacts to stimulus and liquidity, there's probably undervalued versus gold, and I think people will start to realize that and work that out as Bitcoin starts to break all-time highs. So it's just a difficult answer to say like, oh, but gold's going to take 6 months to retrace to like 6,000, 2,500 or 2,600, 2,800, whatever, because it really is just dependent on the way the market reacts. The only thing that I'm not going to say I'm certain, it's just based on technicals. I just really feel that the gold is going to pull back, and that's going to be that, or like the gold's the indicator and the catalyst for Bitcoin to start going. Not necessarily gold, because I think that there's going to be a macro decision or something that happens that is the catalyst, but gold's the technical catalyst because it's going to react in a way that, let's say, for example, like today, rates were going up this morning, and are the US then going to come out and say, oh, we're buying back treasuries at a larger rate than we were, or whatever? And then is that the actual signal? But although gold would respond probably not negatively straight away, people then might go, oh, this is when Bitcoin's going to really pop on, so I want to take some of my like hedged wealth and put it into Bitcoin. So I think that for those reasons, whatever the narrative might be, or like China, they said that tomorrow they're going to start like lowering rates on deposits. It's like, for those headlines could be the actual catalyst, but then is that the catalyst giving people enough like positive sentiment in terms of, okay, we're less uncertain, so now we're going to rotate? And that's what I'm watching gold for, essentially. That's my thought process on gold anyway.
Yeah. On the subject of timing, this leads quite well into topic 2, which is how long do we have left? Is the final leg of the bull run, or is this the final leg of the bull run, or are we just getting started? Now, I think personally we are in what I'd like to call the grand finale stage, where we have a maybe 3 to 9 month window, if that, to have this blow off if we're going to see it. I think we're at a major junction in macro and markets, and I think we are at the time where it is make or break, effectively. So, what do you think crypto see in the coming? What is your time frame for this current market? Mine's 3 to 9 months. Are you in the same ballpark?
I really want to hear from our guests, to be honest with you. I think I really want to, yeah, I really want to know what Crypto Insight UK thinks.
I think it's a very difficult question again, but I think on this I'm going to give my more biased opinion towards the asset that I spend the most time looking at, which is XRP. I think that XRP is about to, I'll put an XRP chart up. I haven't got anything particularly drawn on it. Like, that was just talking about where I think were good opportunities. Let's see what other charts I've got. Just want to show you a thought. Okay, I haven't even not got anything drawn here, but essentially I think XRP is ready to take another leg higher, and I think it takes a leg higher to, it's at 230, whatever, 237 right now, and I think it probably goes anywhere between $8 and $12 on the next leg. And for me, this I'll get round to the exact answer of the question very soon. For me, I'm going to be heavily deleveraging there. It's been most of my portfolio for like the best part of like 4 or 5 years, which has been hard, or like 4 years, which has been tough. And I've made significant returns on it. And when we get to those price targets of between $8 and $12, the risk to the upside, the risk to the downside is much larger than the potential reward to the upside, in my opinion. So I'll be taking a lot off the table, and I'll be transparent with a lot. It could be anywhere between like 60 and 80% of my bag. I'll be selling it between those levels. Now, why is the question a lot of people ask me when I also do think it's possible we could go substantially higher. And my answer is, well, because we've made like a 20x on our 20x return on my whole portfolio is pretty nice. But also then if we are moving like in wave structure, and for example, that's a wave 3, and then we have a wave 4 pullback, I've got extra capital on the side to be able to buy the dip. And if we don't, and if we do continue into, let's say, the end of the year and into next year, and maybe even like further than that, which would be like great for everyone. Like, I wish that happens for everyone who's in crypto. Then I'm also still good. Like, that's the thing that I think people need to attack is securing. One thing like that I will give is like secure profits when they're on the table. And a lot of people get this wrong in their first few cycles. Is they try and like time the exact top. Is it going to top in July? Is it going to top in August? Is it going to top in September? Or is it going to top in February? And yes, there can be massive percentage differences between all of those dates. And there can also be a lot of different geopolitical and like financial problems or opportunities that occur between those two dates. But if you haven't got any money in your pocket, you can't play the game. So if you get a pullback and you've fully invested, whether it tops in July or February of next year, if you've got no cash on hand, if it starts to pull back and you want to buy, you're fucked. And if you haven't got any money generally, and you've overinvested, which I know a lot of people do, including myself, I was well overexposed to the market, or I was for the last like 3 or 4 years until this first pump for XRP really, and I was riding that on pretty heavy leverage as well, so I did pretty well. Then you're just in a bad position, and it's much easier to play the game with a more clear decision if you draw money off the table when you've made significant gains. So as much as I'm saying here like a wishy-washy answer, when's it going to top, or is it going to be 2 months, 3 months, I think that in the next 2 to 3 months we see significant upside. I think Bitcoin is going to finish this cycle at very, very, very least above 130k, and if that happens, then alts are going to be substantially higher from here, because I think Bitcoin dominance is going to drop. There's another one of my like calls is that I think Bitcoin dominance does drop from here. I'm just messing around with this today, but I think Bitcoin dominance does drop from somewhere from where we are now, could be higher up towards 74%, but I also think it comes below 39%, which isn't consensus, but that's what I personally, I think we're going to make a lower low in dominance. And if just this dip here, if just this dip in like what 2.58% was this first like weekly candle, 2.7%, was what was it, 40? How much was a percentage rise in ETH?
I mean, we saw whiff and that to pull like 3x. Like we saw
Yeah.
some things just go nuts.
Yeah, so 40% in ETH, which is the largest altcoin, and then fucking 300% in some smaller like smaller cap alts from a 2.75% pullback in Bitcoin, and we potentially got at least a for history to repeat from here, at least a like 38%, which is what 15x what we've already seen. Then don't like use that as a metric rather than time, and don't fuck yourself if it's in 2 months and we drop 40% or like 38% in Bitcoin dominance. Don't try and be too clever trying to catch next year as well. If because who knows whether that's guaranteed. That's basically my answer. It's fucking long for sure.
Do we have a gold / Bitcoin dominance chart which will show something similar, whereby if the gold to Bitcoin dominance drops a tiny bit, that will also shoot up the Bitcoin price? Because I guess it's a similar thing, right?
Maybe. I haven't actually ever looked. I've never really thought about a relationship between Bitcoin dominance and gold, to be honest. I think what I think is going to happen, if I was just going to like have an absolute stab in the dark at what I think comes next, is obviously I think no matter what I say next, I think gold runs off into crypto. I say Bitcoin because Bitcoin's the easiest thing to talk about. But then what I don't know then is whether Bitcoin dominance just does something like this, whether Bitcoin dominance just pukes, and what it could work its way down, and that could take 9 months as well. So that's one option. It could literally puke, and we see alt season and have a great alt season. Or Bitcoin dominance could do the other two things, which is just one could go sideways as capital comes in and alts still outperform, or like perform in line and everything just goes up and Bitcoin goes to like 180, 200, or Bitcoin could suck the liquidity in, come into this grey box and then start to see the decline from there. But whatever happens, one, I think gold's going to rotate into crypto, or some gold is going to rotate into crypto, which is going to be a catalyst. And two, at some point in this grey box or before this grey box, whether we've made it now or not, that will, as long as history repeats and you have to work on that basis, rotate into alts. So they're the metrics that I use for like time. Time could be 2 months, 3 months, 9 months, but it's the technical rather than the actual. And that sounds so stupid because like you're asking when it's going to happen in terms of time, but the time is based on what happens technically rather than actual days in the week, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. We're the same opinion. And so Bitcoin dominance as well. I do believe we topped from around where we are now up to about 68% at a push. And again, like you, I kind of feel that we could just have a puke, because I think it's the least likely scenario from what I hear and listening to other people. A lot of people think we have a more structured breakdown. And obviously the best for ourselves and probably listeners is just a straight puke in Bitcoin dominance.
I mean, that's the
which lead, which will probably lead to silly gains in alts across the board. So if that is to happen, what do you think the likes of Sui, Tao, some of the darling ones of this cycle will continue to outperform going forward? Or is there anything else that you maybe think could come from behind?
That's what she said to start with, but I don't. For Bitcoin for like Sui and Tao, I don't know. Like Sui's had been a major performer so far this cycle, and like let's say we've got a 5-wave structure on like a lot of the charts. Sui's about to start his 5th wave, in my opinion. And a lot of other alts are about to start their 3rd, so you could potentially see some percentage outperformance of those this cycle. I know that like Raoul Pal is a big fan of Sui. But I also know, being completely transparent, that Sui have offered a lot of OTC deals to KOLs. I was one of them, and I didn't actually accept it. Not for any particular reason. Just at the time, I thought it was overpriced based and in comparison to the percentage discount that I was going to get, which is 40% at the time. So if I've been offered that, then a lot of other KOLs have been offered that, which means one of two things. It means one, they've got supply coming out that they've got to unlock, that there's going to be distributed to KOLs who are probably now, I think I was offered it, like I think the price I was actually going to get it for was like 310. I don't know what it is at right now. But they're probably in the money on most of their OTC unlocks, which is not necessarily bad. Like as Raoul Pal talks about, something low float, if you've got good marketing behind it, it has the opportunity to go up higher. But it also does mean that that a lot of people have got tokens that they bought for less. I could literally prove that a lot of KOLs, especially who've got big bags, because I think the minimum ticket was 20k. And I know that a lot of the team, a lot of people that I know filled their like positions, and people were offered much more than me based on followings. So a lot of people have got big bags of SUI, and as long as they keep marketing it, it's going to go up. But as soon as the marketing machine slows down or stops, I think it'll also reverse pretty quickly, because a lot of people are going to be selling on each other to pull the price, like, so they can get the best like sale. And that's not to shit on SUI, by the way. And for people who are watching who don't understand how this market works, like most altcoins do that. Like, to be absolutely transparent with you, it's like, it's a weird realization when you start to realize it, but most altcoins, especially ones with non-complete circulating supplies, offer OTC deals to people. And so it is the same across the board, but if you get good marketing, you've got development behind it, kind of like Solana. If you've got a good marketing team, you've got unlocks and OTCs for people, it incentivizes people to be bullish on your project. And when you've got people bullish on your project, you bring traction to the network, and you bring eyes to the network, and that brings developers, and then that brings application, and that again can be a self-reinforcing cycle that brings price. So it's not necessarily negative. I just think, going back to your question, do you think Tao and Sui are going to do well? Sui's one that I've kind of got like a bit of a personal negative bias towards, and I don't know if that's for one or two reasons. One, because of knowing like how many people are in on OTC, or two, because I missed a pump. And either way, and I'm still salty about it either way. I don't know. But that's just being completely transparent. So will it continue? Probably. It's probably going to do pretty well, especially when you've got people like Raoul on the board. The team are bright, they're doing good things, and there's a lot of attention, and there's also a lot of people with vested interest. So it's probably going to do pretty well. As to whether others outperform, I always think in alt season, things are going to surprise people. If we start to get this pullback in Bitcoin dominance, I think people are going to be shocked. I think people were shocked, for example, like when XRP moved from 55 cent to 270 in that first move, and then continued to 330. I think XRP is going to be a top alt, a large alt cap performer this cycle, and I think people are going to be shocked at how high that potentially goes. But others will outperform, and you'll see some narratives probably grow again. Like, I don't know what they'll be, but I'm just going to have a stab in the dark. Ones that people don't think will come back, like Metaverse. And I'm not invested in Metaverse. I'm not going to touch them because I don't want to play that game. But there will be something like that comes back, and everyone's going to be talking about it. And then some wild things will do the best outperformers, I would presume. Unless we've moved into a different paradigm where utility starts to come through, and then you'll probably see things again that people don't necessarily expect to do well, but the utility narrative will probably come back. And I do think at some point that won't be a narrative, it will come into fruition. But
so do you think potentially the utility narrative will flip the AI/meme coin narrative that we've had for pretty much the majority of this cycle? Or do you think the memes and AI will continue to be the main narratives, and maybe utility has its go next time round?
I think meme and AI is like a separate, obviously, talking points. I think the meme narrative, if you want me to get like completely speculative, I can start throwing some weird speculations around that. They're like, oh, there are definitely people align with. But I'm just going to throw a coincidental scenario out, and the coincidental scenario is that FTX had loads of billionaire debts that it needed to pay off to loads of different billionaires who had like OTC deals on things like Solana as well, and FTX were a massive Solana holder. And it was just always a coincidence that Solana had the most percentage gain from like $7 up to whatever it initially rallied to, based on the hype behind meme coins that everyone every cycle has just said that was just completely stupid. until the day that the FTX unlocks and repayments were then locked in, and then all of a sudden, literally to the day, the volume of meme coins started falling off. So I think that's kind of weird, a weird coincidence, at least in the first place. And I think like if you look back in cycles going forwards and you think what happened in that period, and someone explains it, they're going to be like, that is so stupid. But doesn't mean that you couldn't make money there. But I also think that within that period, and a lot of retail got burned. So whether they come back and play in the same casino again, I don't know. Some people like to play the same game, even if they've won or lost, doesn't matter. But then if you take the AI narrative, I think that AI tokens will probably do well, but probably not in the sense that we've seen them so far. Yes, maybe AI agents, but I also don't really think AI agents need a token a lot of the time. You could argue subscription models like using them in a similar way to like ChatGPT or whatever, or like as a personal helper, then maybe. But you only really need one. Like, why do you need anything else? If you can build a good iteration on like a large language model, you only need like one successful project that could just give you 8 or 10 or 20 different, I don't know too much about AI, but I'm just guessing at like 10 or 20 different AI agents that could help you with specific niches. Probably held by an umbrella company that just means one token is probably going to do really well. Or like, I think Tao's like got subnets or whatever it's called. I don't know too much about Tao either, but like, I don't think that there will be loads and loads of competition in the AI space. I think AI is similar to Web3 gaming as far as I see it, in the fact of like, there's probably going to be a massive breakout at some point, but until then, everyone's just extracting for value. Everyone's just like launching a token, taking money off people and building pretty much carbon copy of something else, and maybe not even to getting it to market in time. And I think that could kill hype in the short term until one massive breakthrough comes out. And whether that's Tao or not, I don't know. It's got a big marketing machine behind it now, with like Barry Silbert recently talking to Raoul about it. So, and obviously he's head of what's Barry Silbert head of now? I forgot. Digital currency group.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he was talking to Raoul about it, and he obviously is massive into Tao now. He's been pretty right on his calls, but I don't know. That's basically my answer on both. I think AI will do well. It's just whether the tokens follow suit. I think it makes sense for AI use case to run.
I think some of the stuff like virtuals and that has obviously shown that it's not dead just from the bounces we've seen. Like that big small Bitcoin dominance drop you showed us earlier. We've seen some massive bounces in some of the AI stuff. Virtuals being one of them, AI16Z, Tau as well. Like there's been some big bounces in that stuff, and I don't think that's going to go away. And the same with memes like Popcat, Whiffs. I mean, Peanuts moved out of nowhere the last couple of days, and I don't think those ones that the market's kind of shown its hand to are done. I think a lot of that meme like peak hype around Q4 has been flushed. And I think it's kind of ready to go again, yeah, in my eyes.
Yeah, I'll just finish with like one little comment on that, and I've just talked way too much. Is like, what I do think is, at the minute there's what 3 point something trillion in crypto. What is there in crypto right now? It's like what 3.27 trillion, and if we're gonna add another 3 to 4 trillion potentially by the end of this year, and Bitcoin dominance drops from where it is now by like 40%, like let's say you could very easily see $4 or $5 trillion rotate through altcoins, and if that is the case, everything's going to catch a bid like no one's ever seen. The 2017 alt season was like ridiculous. Everything was moving up like sometimes 20, 40, 50% a day for like weeks. And I think there's a world where you can see that. It's hard for people to say that because they're like emotionally scarred from last cycle. And also you look very stupid if it doesn't happen. It's very easy for people to shit on you and say, oh, you said this, whatever. But realistically, that's a fucking lot of money. And some of these, like even XRP, for example, like I don't even know what the market of XRP is now, but like a few hundred billion.
140 billion.
Yeah, 140 billion. So imagine if like, being one of the larger cap alts, some of that money, let's say $1 trillion or more, 2 trillion, cycle through that before they cycle onto the next altcoin. If we move like in like cyclically through different asset groups, which we did historically, which is like could be DeFi, then it moves to gaming, and then it moves to whatever decentralized sciences or whatever. If we get the rotation in that sense, then everything could catch like some fucking worldy bids, and people are going to be sitting there thinking, why am I not more exposed?
Because I think ETH as well. I think ETH has been an underdog and has been one of the most painful holds for a lot of people. It would not surprise me if we saw that way above $1 trillion size market cap.
Like ETH's been one like this cycle that I haven't really paid enough attention to, because I was so heavy ETH last cycle, did pretty well, sold like most of my bag between like 2.5 and 4.5 thousand. Well, I sold it all between 2.5 and 4.5. I sold too much too early in that cycle, but then I don't think it's wrong, because like with the message that I've been trying to send to you guys, just looking back, it feels like it's wrong, but I still was buying it like 600, so it's still decent, or 300 to 600. But the point that I'm making with these, I haven't paid enough attention to it to put a proper thesis on it, because when you do well on a crypto, you can't just sit and like, I don't know if you can, but I don't sit and watch it anymore. I just sort of like let it go and try and forget about it. So I think ETH could do well, but then obviously seen the narrative with the old twos, and I also don't think ETH's a fix to the financial system. So I don't know.
Well, I think we've seen the sentiment bottom in it as well. I mean, I know CryptoSI capitulated finally, and that to me adds to the signals that I think ETH is ready to rock, effectively.
Yeah. At least that's a mental one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I eventually got out of ETH. It's just hurt me this cycle. Last cycle it wasn't brilliant, and I just feel like now I need to be a little bit more as I'm going a little bit more risk on. I like to move a little bit further out on the risk curve, a little bit further down on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. So ETH is not really for me at the minute. So that's why I've gone. And I think with me, I've held ETH as long as it's existed, and if I'm capitulating, then I think
some serious pain has happened.
Yeah. And literally, you can tell, because the day I sold, I'm sure the next day it started to rally. And even as I clicked sell, I thought, you're just selling this for it to rally tomorrow. And if you don't sell it, it doesn't rally until you sell it. So just sell it and let everybody else have their rally.
Send me your wallet so I can put a tracker on it whenever you sell something. I have to go start.
Literally, I'm the absolute king of selling the bottom. A stuff that I've held for a long time, I am the king of selling the bottom of it. I'm the king of it.
Happens, unfortunately.
Yeah. Feels like it happens to me more than everyone else does.
So going back to timing wise, CryptoSI, do you have anything to add on when you think we might top out? Do you reckon it'll be the historical Q4? Could it be sooner? Could it be later?
I think end of this year. But what I also think is that I do think there'll be one of two things happen. I think we'll get the blow off top. I think prices will go crazy like never before. I think we'll see a better altcoin season than we saw in the last cycle. I think we'll see one more like 2017. But I also think a lot of people are going to try to front run the next bear market. So I think a lot of people will try to sell out and rotate back to either stable coins or Bitcoin before the actual bull market ends. Whereas the last two cycles, there was a feeling of this time it's different. I don't think anyone's under that or going to be under that illusion. But having said that, when prices go rocketing up, I guess people have short memories. So we'll see. But I think we get to the end of the year at least.
Then do you think we'll have a standard 60-70% correction, or do you think it's going to be different in that sense? Because I think we're actually going to have a less likely such sharp drop in Bitcoin price.
Yeah,
specifically.
I don't know. And this is what I wanted to ask Crypto Insight, really. It was because I do feel like this time it actually is a little bit different, whereby Bitcoin is a lot more tied to the price of stocks, and there are countries that are holding it. Bitcoin's kind of like, at times it's acting like a tech stock, but now it's legal to hold it. And before it wasn't illegal, but it kind of was, whereby countries couldn't hold it, companies couldn't hold it, even people, you couldn't really get it without your bank giving you a hard time about it. All of those barriers have gone. The Americans have kind of said it was legal. So now the British are holding it and all of the other countries are holding it. I wonder if that does mean that this time it is different, and maybe we do see less of a drop than we saw over the last 2 cycles.
Honestly, I haven't got there with my thesis because I play the same. I can go around in circles one way or another. It's not going to affect my personal take profit plan, whatever happens. Because if you like play on the fact that it isn't going to have the severe bear market, then is there any point in selling? Because Bitcoin over time just basically outperforms everything. So you may as well just hold if you have that, if you like locked into that thesis. But there are definitely catalysts and things that could bring it down sharply, like for example, MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, and Metaplanet now in Japan, and these companies basically leveraging their Bitcoin holdings. Which, look, I'm not an expert on the way that they structure their like stocks or whatever they call them, like Bitcoin bonds or whatever. But there's whenever I've seen anyone leverage anything like that on Bitcoin or anything in crypto, realistically, it can get unwound. Where even when people think it's never going to happen, oh, like for example, the most obvious example is Luna. Everyone was like, it's an untouchable stable coin, algorithmically backed with Bitcoin in reserve, and then that crash started basically the bear market of last year, and then obviously triggered some, well, may or may not have triggered some of FTX, which then like finished the capitulation really. But my answer is like, I think Bitcoin's going to be a long-term asset, but then I'll actually throw one more thing into the scenario is like really respected technical analysts like Credible Crypto, who I have had on the podcast, and I think he's probably the best, like crypto analyst in the space. He believes that at some point Bitcoin's going to go into like a bigger bear market than anyone's seen, of like 2 to 3 years, of like, and more significant than the last few bears in terms of pullbacks. And I don't know what the answer is. I really don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think the Bitcoin dominance, as I said, drops. And I think that that's because at some point crypto is going to start to bring in utility. And will people still be as focused on Bitcoin? It's going to sound ridiculous now, like when I start to say some of this stuff, because I don't even necessarily believe it. I'm just throwing thoughts out there. It's like, will people care about Bitcoin less for a short period of time whilst people start to flood into something that's potentially utility based, whether that's like ETH, XRP, Algorand, or anything that you might, maybe it's an AI token like that starts to really catch a bid, and maybe they put the whole narrative on that, and all this, then that takes up massive dominance. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for whether Bitcoin has the big pullback at the end of the cycle. I know for me personally, whatever happens, I will take my profits into stables, at least to start with, but then you got like the stablecoin risk, which is going to be another fucking headache. But at some point we'll start to buy Bitcoin back. And I probably will just DCA into it on the way. What I was going to drop is like a little bit of alpha as to what I'm going to do when, like I've said, in the next few months, the XRP I think is going to pop up, and that's going to be like our first and maybe the last, but who knows whether we're going to go into next year or not, just go on the basis that's a question mark. The way that I'm actually going to play that is, because I was taking heavy profits between 8 and 12, and I haven't really told anyone else this, so this is like the first time I'm talking about it, is mainly into stables, and then I'm going to probably put 5% of the stables on like Bitcoin puts into next year, and because then then that protects the downside volatility against Bitcoin with sitting in stables anyway, and then you have if Bitcoin does drop, then you're good, and then I'll probably put 15 to 20% in far down the risk curve alts, like maybe spread between 3 or 4 that I believe in. Like I've quite like Flare Networks, for example, that I think could do somewhere between like in a good cycle between like a 20 to 100x, and then I've got the upside volatility also kind of like a cool option with some of those altcoins and still sitting heavily in stables. And then if we do get a pullback, then you can be sitting heavily in stables and make the decision on whether you want to like reallocate some of your portfolio or not. But if you think that alt season plays out as we do, and you catch like one alt that does 100x or 50x, you do pretty well. Obviously, no matter what you put in, pretty much like even 1% of your portfolio brings it up to 50%. And then if you've got the hedge in terms of called options, say you pay like a small premium and you have say 5% of your portfolio in calls, and you get a 20x return if you hit your put option, sorry, then you're looking pretty good. And you rest of just sitting in stables. It almost means that you can sit like 70-80% or 70% stable, 75% stables, and be win-win no matter what's happened, as long as you play it that way. Obviously you won't gain as much as you could if you just held it all in the right altcoin, but I think that's the way that I'm going to protect myself against potentially having an amazing alt season at the end of the year, but also taking some heavy profits in this next like severe leg up.
I think it's a great way to do it.
Yeah. That is generally the biggest problem, well, I've ever had, is what do you do after you get rich? What do you do after you've had this great alt season? Is it stable coins, which almost fell apart last year with USDC falling apart, and USDT possibly falling apart this time round? Or do you just sit in Bitcoin and feel the pain over 2 years? The decision is yours. Neither of them are particularly fun.
On top of that, I think there's an extra risk this cycle, which is the DXY is just losing strength. So if you sit in dollar stable coins, you're just going to lose strength versus everything. Not everything, because I don't think the dollar's going to go to zero, but it's definitely like even retracement in the DXY has been probably 10 to 15%. You're going to lose 15% on your whole net worth just sitting it all in dollars. Then you've got the extra thought process of like, what currencies do I need to sit it in just to protect against currency risk? And then you also probably want to make some sort of yield on it, because you just having significant capital sitting there literally stagnant is just crap, basically. So it's like there's a lot of headache, and that's why I said before we went onto this call, I said like, do I charge for anything at the minute? Like, and I don't do anything like that, but I think it could be worth like trying to create a group after the bull market as to where to and how to allocate during a bear, because I think that's realistically the hardest thing to do. In terms of trying to create yield and maximize what you want to do for the next bull. If the bear plays out the same way as it has before, it's flipping happy days, because all we need to do is just sit and wait. But if it doesn't, and if things are changing and we're having a paradigm shift in crypto, like it's going to get super confusing, especially if we have this paradigm shift across the macro world as well, where like China or an alternative payment system. I've listened to Russell Napier today, and he was talking about thinking about a potential alternative payment system. He wasn't talking about BRICS or anything like that, but he was just discussing that the renminbi might start to take more strength, and he doesn't think it's going to be a world reserve currency, but he thinks that if something like that was to happen, people would need more gold to back it, and that could be a reason why gold's taking such a bid, because they're going to have to shore that system up and show it as actually like a fair alternative. And I don't think he thinks it's quite ready yet, but in like what, say a year's time, if things escalate, we could be closer to that world. I don't know. Like, I think everything's so on a knife's edge at the minute, including like AI and what that might do to the world. It's like there's a lot to think about in terms of investment world, and it's even more to think about if you're sitting on a large amount of stables, because the other thing that I wanted to do, and I probably will do, is some of my friends just buy like shares of property in different locations. What Financial Navigator was talking about in Bali, and potentially I'd look somewhere like that, or Thailand or Australia, Europe. I'll probably look at all of them. But then you've also got the like capital, the risk of like the stop of like capital flight and your rights to property. And Russell Napier actually, in fact, in today's podcast said it's the first time he's ever heard anyone question whether they've actually got capital rights in the US, and whether their property would be actually redeemably theirs, even though they were from the UK. And the first time anyone's ever questioned that. And he doesn't think that that's going to start like a revolution, but it's just like things to start considering. It's where to put your capital when you've done well with it is just as.
I mean, it's jurisdictions as well. Depending on what jurisdiction in, it could be an absolute nightmare if you're trying to realize some of the stuff back into your local currencies. And the UK is one of these places. Europe will be a pain in the ass as well. Dubai, I think, is probably one of the best at the minute. I know Indonesia is very good. But it just all adds to extra headache. And maybe we have to do a full rotation back to you pull profits out of crypto to put back into gold. Or do you just sit there in the dollar and take the currency risk of the 15% potential downside? Because realistically, in the grand scheme of things, next bull market, you'll probably way do out 15% anyway. So I think there's a fine line between maybe overthinking some positions, because in a over longer time perspective, it's up and to the right effectively if we continue on this path. So
yeah, I just know that, like, if you use the property thing for example, I know that, like, people who I respect in terms of like macro economy, when they discuss like property buying, they always try and buy properties in jurisdictions they think are going to outperform the currency they're currently holding. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense, but a lot of people don't think about it, because then you also get the appreciation in property value if it does appreciate, and the currency appreciation, which is why obviously we've been seeing the sell off in the DXY and also in the S&P, because the dollar's rallied so much against pretty much every currency in the world, but also the S&P's been rallying, so people are taking, and they haven't really hedged that currency, so they basically held all their assets in dollars, and the dollar and the asset has gone up. So now they're thinking, shit, I've actually made like a much bigger return than I had previously. Like a lot of sovereign wealth, like I saw that, like Norway, for example, they've made like 1,000% on their investments, and it just makes sense for some of that capital to return home.
Yeah, I think obviously if we're in that fourth turning era, like you say, property wise, you want to be looking at the stuff to outperform the dollar going forward, and that could be the likes of Asia, South America, stuff like that. I know on the high lists for me is Cambodia and Indonesia are meant to be some of the best up and coming places around the world. So I think that should be on people's radars, obviously, with regards to when it comes to taking profits. But we will move into predictions for next week. So if you don't mind, Crypto Insight UK, just stop sharing your screen. I'll quickly pop mine up.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was still sharing it to us. Sorry.
It's all right. Can everybody see charts?
I can see that 2.2% on Ethereum over the last hour since we've been talking.
That is the wrong screen. Can we see charts now?
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. So last week we said Bitcoin. Was this last week or 2 weeks ago? No, last week was fine, wasn't it?
Last week was fine, yeah.
Yeah. So unfortunately, none of us hit targets from last week. We did initially start moving towards mine before reversing. Tron, we were both way off. We thought Tron was going to have its leg. Unfortunately, didn't. And then again, same for Link and SHIB as well. So this is probably actually first week we've got zero correct.
This is our worst week ever. But I think we've had pretty much a sideways week, so it doesn't play into our hands.
Yeah.
When it's only on the weekly basis. So we need to explain to Crypto Insight UK that what we do is each week we will try to predict the price of stuff in 1 week's time. So it's almost like a lottery, but it's good fun. And then at the end, we then put on a leveraged play on what we think are our best predictions, but we use hyperliquid, which means that we can't pick any asset in crypto. We can only pick the ones that are on hyperliquid, which has cost us dearly in the past.
Yeah. But hey ho. So this week, asset wise, I think it's only right if we do XRP alongside Bitcoin as a must. What else do we fancy?
I like that. He said a Flare. He said you like Flare networks.
Yeah, but short term, not very good at short term on that.
No, but short term's a lottery. It's like penalty shootout.
Okay.
Is Flare going to be on hype? Is Flare on hyperliquid?
I don't think so. Well, is ENA on hyperliquid? I've been trading that for a little bit.
Flare's not on here. ENA, Yes, it is.
Yeah,
Should we do ENA?
yeah.
So we'll get rid of Flare. So anything you particularly want CryptoSI?
I want to do a meme.
A whiff.
With. I was going to say Popcat.
Oh, that's fine. One dog, one cat. I think we're good to go. Unless, or should we do? Do you want to do Popcat and I'll do a metaverse play? 'Cause we did say about metaverse coming back.
Can do.
Yeah, I'll do. I want to say Sandbox.
Oh yeah. Is that even a thing?
Yeah. I've done great on Sandbox last time round.
Yeah, I know. Did well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Didn't go.
Right. So to kick it off with Bitcoin, where do we think we're going next week? Will we be at all-time highs or still struggling?
Who go first?
Crypto Insight UK, as the guest, we would like to extend our hospitality to you, so you can go first.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna go pretty similar to where your line is. I'm gonna do like 113k a week.
113, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. I'm sure that's right up your street, CryptoSI.
I love that. I'm permable, so I'm gonna go 113. Just leave my line.
Do it 113.
Yeah, leave or put my line where his is. Yeah, we'll share that line.
Nice. That's got double law now, so it has to go there.
I'm going to join you, but I'm going to go a bit more bullish.
Oh, love to see
I'm
it.
going to say 150.
113 and $20.
No, I'm going to go 115 for me. I think we could be at substantial new highs.
Crikey, but Barley has changed you. You've come back a changed man. You're never more bullish than me. Okay.
Right, XRP, where do we think?
If Bitcoin's at 113, then XRP's got to be at like 270, 280 at least.
I mean, if there's an
Let's go
argument,
do 285.
285. I think there's an argument for a head and shoulders here as well. And that would put us 416, but I'm not sure that's going to happen in a week.
Hey, don't knock
Who knows?
XRP. Be what I want.
285, yeah?
Yeah. Why not?
Okay, I'm going to not go as bullish, but I'm going to say 270 for me. So say we fill them that right shoulder.
You're hard to put that.
285, 270. I'm gonna join you on 270.
Yeah?
Yeah, a bit more Bitcoin dominance. So
You think Bitcoin dominance is going to go higher still?
I think so, yeah. I think it goes up before it who's the bed.
That's fair.
Right, ENA. What is this bad boy?
Yeah, what is this bad boy?
What's that? A double?
Oh, Athena. I know what that is. That's the stable coin. That's what's his name's one.
Actually, there's an argument from what? Triple bottom there?
Arthur Hayes is invested in it.
Love it. Arthur Hayes.
Guys, it's called Guy, I think there.
Another head and shoulders forming as well. In a week.
See now,
La la.
I don't really understand the like fundamentals behind this one because it's a stable coin, right? Where you make money based on how much people mint the stable coin, or how does it?
No, so there's like USDE, which is the stable coin, which is like a $4 or $5 billion market cap stable coin. But Athena, it's kind of like Terra Luna. It's like the Luna of this cycle. Like Luna obviously had UST being like Luna's stable coin, and it also had Luna as in the token, and it's similar to that in a way. It's like it's a synthetic dollar as USDE, but then ENA is like the native token for it. But it's low float, high FTV, with unlocked coming, but obviously they have really good like incentive programs to get people to lock up their stake, and I think that makes the low liquidity makes it a pretty easy thing to push up. It's DeFi and stablecoin. I think stablecoin's going to do, like, a stablecoin narrative is obviously pretty big. I think DeFi is probably going to do well. So it's one of my, like, ETH beta plays. I said I didn't hold any ETH, but I do hold some ETH betas. It's like this and CRV are the things that I watch mostly because of those reasons, essentially.
What are the incentives? Let me see if I can have a look. Let's see.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go 45 cents for target.
I'm gonna go 51 cents.
51. We're all bullish so far.
Well, if you go high on one, you gotta follow the trend across them all, surely, because you can't be like calling 100.
Well, sometimes, so when in previous shows, we have sometimes been, say, bullish Bitcoin, but then again on some, or sorry, bearish Bitcoin, but bullish alts. Because sometimes you get that flip where stuff will just pump. Or I will go bearish, CryptoSI will go bullish, and we take both. So we will come down and then fly up, or vice versa.
So, for example, the last time we were bearish on Bitcoin bullish on Bitcoin and bearish on anything was Monero. And it was just after some hacker had pumped the price of Monero because he was washing his money. I think it was about a month ago. So in those scenarios, if something's been an outlier, that's almost the only time when you bet against Bitcoin. Normally, if you're bullish Bitcoin, you're bullish everything else. It's just a question of how bullish. That's really the...
Right, where would you like CryptoSI? We have 51 cents. Oh, 45.
I'm on 45 as well, please.
Lovely start.
I'm still looking to see what these earn things are for.
Popcat, you used to like this one.
ENA, yeah.
You earn like Athena points, and then they actually give you more ENA tokens to unlock as the circulating supply unlocks, like, over time. But they're in, like, it's like seasons or whatever. I don't know. Like, it's the same with, like, most DeFi projects. They give you some incentive to stake the coin, so you'd obviously lock up supply and the price can move more easily. But they also give you, like, they're launching other things on the like related to the platform, like decentralized derivatives exchanges and stuff like that, like DEXs almost, and these sorts of things that you get points for, and the points equate to token unlocks over time. But I'm not so good at the staking side of things. I try and stay away from staking as much as possible because I always feel like the risk is just too high. Lads, you mind if I just quickly, how long have we got left? Either way.
So go for it, mate.
Thank you.
Popcat CryptoSI, you quite like this one a while back.
I do. I did like Popcat, or the Bumber Cat, as we call him.
So as you want, I'm going to go 70 cents.
Wow. What's a big move to the upside?
I think we get the move this week. Could be wrong. Could be wrong.
We have always said that the memes will move before everything else. I felt like we had some strong meme moves last week. You're going with what, 70?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna go 58.
What? Are you feeling okay?
Yeah. I just don't think it's time yet. It's not feeling like,
That's fair enough.
I'm not feeling like alt season quite yet.
I'm going to hazard a guess that CryptoInsightUK is going to go with you.
Do you think so?
I reckon. Where do you reckon? This is proper. Yeah. We're now guessing where our guests are going to guess.
Yeah. He seems like he's a little bit more bullish. Like, he seems like more my sort of level of bullishness, which usually would be where you are now. So I'd say he'll probably go 70. Let's see.
Right, we were just guessing, CryptoInsightUK, where you were going to guess that Popcat will go for next week.
Popcat, flipping heck. I haven't really looked at it at all, but looking at that, What's that?
I've gone with 70 cents, and CryptoSI's gone with, what was it, 58 or 57?
70 cents is like an 80% move in the next week.
Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah, let's get like, I'd probably get like, yeah, do you know what? I'm with you. Let's do it. Would you? Good. What I feel, I'll tell you why I think this sort of thing is because like, I feel like we've like put in a low and I think the next thing is to sweep the high.
Yeah.
On like most, if we're going to go up, then we're probably going to push towards like sweeping the highs.
Right. And then finally, the sandbox. It's got a nice little head and shoulders bottom here.
You love a head and shoulders, ain't it?
Well, they just pop up, they stick out like a sore thumb, don't they?
Or sore head.
Right, what are we looking at? Sandbox.
I am going to go back towards prior highs.
I just loved that someone mentioned metaverse. I haven't heard that term at all for like 3 years.
That's like, that's why you probably value that. Like, I don't hold any metaverse tokens, just like disclaimer, but they're the sort of things that just do pretty well, and then everyone's going to be talking about it again. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but
Well, yeah. So
I'm not saying that either.
I still own land and property in Decentraland, so I could imagine like some AI project having actual characters running around the metaverse and doing stuff, and that becoming a thing. That could lead. That's
It's not the land next to Snoop Dogg by any chance, is it?
no Snoop Dogg in Sandbox. I looked at that land, and I didn't buy it because you had to be up early and it all went really quickly, and then Snoop Dogg plotted next to it and I was gutted. But I don't know, it is what it is.
So where do we think for sandbox, gents? I've gone with 38.
41. I'll tell you what, being bullish biased hasn't hurt me in the long term in crypto. So
Yeah, this is 1 week.
That's the problem. I'm gonna go 41 as well.
Lovely stuff. Right, so over to you, CryptoSI, to put the trades on. So out of those assets, which ones would we like to trade?
I'm in an ENA long right now, so
Double up.
ENA. Well, currently, so the positions we're currently in from last week, where we got liquidated on. What did we get liquidated on?
I don't even remember what we put on last week.
Put on SHIB and Link.
Damn it.
We longed SHIB and got liquidated, and we longed Link, and we are currently down 30%. The
Close that bad boy out.
3x leverage.
yeah, get ENA stuck in there. I think.
All right. What do we do with Link? Do we leave Link?
Yeah,
run?
close it. Close it. Take the hit. New week. New start.
Oofed.
I know. It'll shoot up now.
Probably. I literally put a fresh link long on this morning.
Yeah. Okay, so we're down now. We're down. We started with $100. We are now down to 90. We was up there at 130.
We've been on a proper yo-yo. We've been like up, then down to like 70, then back up to 150, then back down.
Yeah.
We're trying to catch the big boy.
Yeah. We're gonna get this up to 100K sooner or later.
Nice. Couple years. I would like to take the XRP trade.
All right, should we put the ENA on first?
Oh, soon.
Let's let our guest go first.
Yeah.
So we'll do.
I've never used Hyperliquid.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's quite straightforward. Apparently,
Would you like to go with your exact targets for ENA, or would you like to slightly change them?
so take profit being at
51 cents.
Yeah, let it hit there. Let's have a
Where would you like your stop loss?
it depends how. Oh, you're only 3x leveraging it, aren't you?
Yeah, not massive.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm higher leverage than that right now. My current stop is at like 33 cents, and my take profit is at around 50 cents. Well, I think we'll work out the highs. I think it's my 49 cent ish. My take profit. So you could follow along to that if you want. Okay, it's not far from my entry. I'm probably like 2 or 3% up on the entry at the minute.
So is it a stop at 32 cents, you say?
33, yeah, go for 33.
33 and a take profit of 51.
Yeah, go on then, why not? What does that bring if like a whopping? How much?
115%. So we'll double our money if we touch the thing. So what have we got? 840. So what should we do? We'll do $25.
Get it on.
Let's go.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to take the Bitcoin long this week.
Boring.
Yeah, I know it's boring, but I'm looking at that XRP chart and I'm like, nah, just it needs more time.
Are you sure?
No, I don't know. You go first. Let me decide.
No, I'm not going to do one this week. We've got Crypto Insight UK's taken my one, and you can do the other one.
No, I want to take Pop. Actually, I want PopCat.
Yeah, nice. I've got some percentage in it.
Yeah, I want a PopCat. But I'm going to go slightly more conservative with the take profit, and I'm going to go with your target crypto series, 58 cents.
And stop loss?
37.
Is that a cat I can hear? Is that what?
Yeah, my cat. She's come in for a fuss.
Is that what inspired you to take this trade?
Yes.
That's her nickname is actually Popsy as well.
Oh, wow. There you go. She's saying up the leverage.
10x.
Shall we up the leverage then?
Go on, do it 4x. Popsy is giving us the sign.
All right, 4x. We're gonna live dangerously. Ops. Knock that out. 58 and what was it? What was stop loss?
What did I say? 37 was it? Did I say 37? I remember. Well, yeah, 37.
It's 37 now.
Get it in.
Let's get this up to the right amount. 25. There we go.
Lovely stuff.
Nice. Good luck, lads.
Well, it's been a great show, guys. Anyone want to add anything?
No, it's been really interesting. So thank you very much for your time, and learnt quite a lot today. So
Where can people find you? CryptoInsightUK. If they want to see more of your stuff.
Yeah, I'm Crypto Insight UK across every platform. Like no extra eyes or ones or anything like that. It's literally Crypto Insight UK on YouTube, X, Instagram. What else is there? TikTok, and then also the weekly insight newsletters out every week as well. You find it on Substack. And yeah, thank you for having me on, guys. I really appreciate the time that you let me to come on and have a chat with you guys.
It was an absolute pleasure. So until next time, everybody, take care, and we shall see you next week. Adios.